Hey, it's time to talk about the 2012 Best Animated Films that the Oscars chose, nominated, and eventually won. And by that, let's get to the nominees. That's Brave, Frankenweenie, Paranorman, The Pirates, Band of Misfits, and Wreck-It Ralph. And the winner was Brave. Yeah, I have to admit, this one I felt like it was very off. Don't get me wrong. I mean, actually get me wrong here, because I think I did a thing where I lined up best and worst of Pixar films. And I think I had Brave as the worst of them all. But it's still a decent watch. So the fact that that is their worst film is actually speaks good of the company. I definitely don't think it deserved to win the Oscar, because I think Wreck-It Ralph was a home run. I think that knocked it out of the park. And I'm glad that at least sometimes the best animated film doesn't even make the list. And in this case, I believe this film was a film that I think Pixar should make. It's kind of the issue. It feels like a film that Pixar should make. And hey, maybe that's the reason why I think it scored so high. So I've already said what I've said about its sequel, which I don't really like. But Wreck-It Ralph, the original, I think has some really, really good ideas in it, and it is more than just an excuse to get a bunch of video game characters together in some kind of connected universe sort of thing. Anyway, so yeah, I agree with the placement of Paranorman on this list, because I think, is that a Laika film? I think it is, because, and this is a film that honestly I feel is too mature for kids, and I appreciate the fact that it is that. And I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of really unsettling things in this movie. And I think the most unsettling thing is the intolerance that is being put on display here, which I really thought is a huge gut punch later on in this film. And I might be spoiling this film for anybody who hasn't seen it, but if you haven't seen Paranorman, where have you been? It is really good. Come on. So it deserved the nomination. Frankenweenie, wow. A black and white computer animated movie by the legendary Tim Burton. Why wasn't this a hit? I swear I didn't really hear anything about this. I tried starting watching this, but I never really finished it. I think it's based on like a live action short that this guy did. And I guess this is his chance to really make the film that he wanted to make. Well, I hope he certainly made it. But, and it's good to see Tim Burton get some work, because I think the guy is he's contributed a lot to just creativity in general. And I'm kind of glad when he gets a project that he's able to really sink his teeth into. Anyway, and there was the Pirates movie. I don't think, was this an Aardman film? It felt like an Aardman film. I mean, it had like I know I saw it, but, I didn't really think it was anything worth writing home about. So, yeah, I was going to say it probably didn't deserve its nomination, because Rise of the Guardians came out that year, and I think that should have been nominated. I love this film, and I think I watch it every year around the holidays, even though you can watch it around any holiday, because it's about like all the holidays essentially getting together to fight an evil. And once again, since it's sort of classified as a holiday movie, the Academy tends to pass on those as far as nominating them. Historically speaking, if you look at my other things where I talked about certain other animated films that didn't get nominated, that were basically holiday-oriented type films, they usually pass on those. I don't know why. If it wasn't for my top choice on this, which was, what was that? Oh yeah, Wreck-It Ralph, shoot. Then I think maybe this should have won. I wouldn't have complained if it had, though. Anyway, so there's the Lorax from Dr. Seuss, also came out this year. It's a pretty decent film. I guess it maybe deserved a nomination. It's different from the book, but it's still enjoyable. So, yeah. Let's just give it a deserved nomination. Madagascar 3 came out this year. A whole lot of fun. And not really Oscar material, because it's not really trying to be a deep film. It's just trying to have a lot of fun. And it's a very kinetic film. I mean, this film is constantly moving at like 100 miles an hour with every minute. But, yeah, probably not Oscar material. Let's just say that. Hotel Transylvania. I actually believe that this film did deserve a nomination, at least this first one. I think what it's trying to do is really good, and man, none of the Hotel Transylvania films got any nomination at all. That's crazy to me. I mean, at least, the second one was pretty good. So, yeah, I would have thought like maybe at least this first one, which is probably the best of them all. It's hard to believe, really. Anyway, next time we'll go back to the year 2011 and talk about all the stuff that came out then. And until then, this is Mark from the Geek Church, signing off. Okay, it's now the 2011 Best Animated Oscar Films, nominations, and winner. And the nominees were Rango, A Cat in Paris, Chico and Rita, Kung Fu Panda 2, and Puss in Boots. And the winner was Rango? Yeah, I know. This is one where I have to say, really? I mean, I've watched Rango, and I will have to say it is a very unique film. Has a very dark sense of humor, but it has a plot line that you've seen before in so many other frickin' films. But here's the thing. I actually think that Rango is smart enough to know that this plot has been done before, and it's trying to do something kind of different. And I've heard it described like maybe... we can't figure out if it was originally a darker script and they toned it down to make it kid-friendly, or it was a kid-friendly script and they just kind of made it a little bit darker. I don't know. It's a really pleasant mix. I've actually watched this film, 'cause I think when it was on, I just never really wanted to watch it. It was a film I just didn't want to see. But I have watched it all the way through, and I think it does deserve a nomination. I'll give it that. It is doing something different. Okay, as for A Cat in Paris, I wish I had seen that one. I haven't. Guess it's about a cat in Paris, I guess. Chico and Rita, I've also haven't really seen that. So, and honestly, I never even heard of that film until I did this report. So, yeah, you can call me out on that. Please do if you like. And the first Puss in Boots movie, I mean, of course, I think I've already gone into several... I've gushed about The Last Wish so much, but I don't even really remember this first film. I think Humpty Dumpty was in it. I think there was a Jack and Jill weren't there, something like that. But if you asked me to say like what happened like plot-wise, I'd be like, I don't know. There's just something, Anyway, so my personal pick for the movie I would have chosen is Kung Fu Panda 2. And like the film How to Train Your Dragon 2, Kung Fu Panda 2 is a blueprint of how you do a good sequel. You get the story deeper, you expand the world more, and you put the characters through several things. In this case, Po has to really face his past, and there's a great thing where he has to confront inner peace. And you also have a villain who is just absolutely one of the best villains in any animated film, with Shen, the white peacock. Brilliantly done. This film deserved to get the win, so I don't know why it didn't. Hey, I don't know if this is... I don't know if sequels have a... I don't know if sequels... I'm trying to think if any sequel has actually won Best Oscar. I know I'm going to get my butt handed to me in comments by this, so feel free. I'm surprised The Adventures of Tintin didn't show up there. I mean, it's a straight-up adventure film by our friends Spielberg and Peter Jackson. And I'm surprised that it just didn't even get a nomination. This film actually has a really unique editing style that I really enjoyed, because this Tintin feels like just your generic IP film is what it feels like. I mean, I don't know anything about Tintin. I never read any of the comics. I know it's a big IP over in France, but and it's quite the adventure. But I mean, there was a lot going on in this film, and hey, Spielberg knows adventure. So, and I think this is the first time he's ever directed an animated film. So, don't know why. Yeah. Okay, then there's Arthur Christmas. I think this should have been nominated, really. I mean, this actually has this is an Aardman film, but this is one of Aardman's better films. I actually kind of like the fact that they made this film. Once again, a holiday film, so usually the Oscars don't usually pick holiday films. Don't know why, even the animated ones, but hey, I think it's a pretty much of a classic. Anyway, so, and then other franchises that started this year was Rio. Yeah, remember that film with the parrots and stuff? Yeah, I know, I didn't really like this film, but got nominated, so you can, or didn't get nominated, and I don't blame it. Ditto Romeo and Juliet. I don't think I've ever sat down and just watched this film. I think it's been playing on the background when I was doing something. I think it's got a lot of Elton John songs in it for just, I don't know, some reason. They made a sequel to it, right? That I don't really want to see that. So I guess that didn't deserve it. So never seen. I've also never seen Mars Needs Moms. Probably because nobody has ever said anything good about this film ever. And I think it killed that motion capture type films that people were trying to make back then, or at least Robert Zemeckis was trying to make, and never really caught on. So, yeah, no argument there for no nomination. I'm told Happy Feet 2 is not good, and I didn't really want to see it because I never really liked the first Happy Feet movie. Okay, sue me. Maybe I'll watch that Happy Feet movie, and maybe I'll say, like, oh, you know what, this is pretty good, but I don't think I'm going to do that, so... Yeah, and oh gosh, Hoodwinked had a sequel this year, Hoodwinked 2. Boy, it was bad. Oh my gosh, it was really horrific. I mean, they didn't even get Anne Hathaway back to do the voice of Red Riding Hood, but I think I'll talk about Hoodwinked when I get to that year. Also, Cars 2 came out, which some people say is one of Pixar's worst films, and I have to say it's alright. I don't really think it's one of their best, but I think it's decent enough to watch, and I've watched it several times, and it's got a really fun action in it. So, yeah, I can understand why they didn't give it a nomination, though. So, hey. All right, so next time we're going to talk about 2010 and the films that came out that year. Mark Rollins from the Geek Church. Hi, everyone. Time to talk about the 2010 Best Oscar nominees and winner for 2010. Yeah, remember that year? The nominees were Toy Story 3, How to Train Your Dragon, The Illusionist. That's it. There were only 3. So I'm going to have to say I don't really agree with this because the winner was Toy Story 3. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Toy Story 3 is a good film. But of all the films that should be nominated for Best Picture, I don't know why this one. I just tend to think that, I don't know, I think past the first Toy Story films, I kind of shut off. This is one of those series that I don't really think got better with its sequels. I really think How to Train Your Dragon should have won. I think this film is magnificent. I think its flying scenes are just beautiful. I think the story of Hiccup and him trying to fit in and his friendship with Toothless is wonderful. I can see why they're trying to make this like a live-action film, even though I don't really see why they're trying to make it a live-action film. The answer is clearly money, and it looks like DreamWorks is trying to steal some of that live-action animation remakes money that Disney is kind of making on the side. So, yeah. I still think it should have won. That's my opinion. As for The Illusionist, I'd never heard of this until this episode. I'm told it was made by the same director as Triplets of Belleville, a film I haven't seen, so whoops. Guess we haven't seen both of those. Hey, any Megamind fans out there? Yeah, I heard the sequel is absolute dog crap, but personally, I think the original deserves to be nominated. I mean, if you're only going to do 3 this year, just throw that one in, even if it doesn't win. And also, Despicable Me came out this year. Really? You're not going to nominate that? Oh my gosh, I wouldn't say that was probably worth a win, but I think it's good enough for a nomination, don't you? I mean, you nominated its sequel for crying out loud. Seriously. Number 2 got Despicable Me 2 got nominated for an Oscar Best Film, Best Animated Film, but this one didn't. It feels kind of weird. So I don't know. Maybe it's like they didn't want to. I don't know. It kind of feels like the Oscars sometimes do pick because, I mean, you know how an animated film is. You've seen animated films that are targeted for younger audiences, and it's very clear Despicable Me was that. But it's also strangely enough that Tangled didn't make the cut. Tangled? Really? Tangled's a great film. Why didn't you even... Seriously, I mean, you would think... I mean, there's usually a Disney movie somewhere in this year. I guess they thought, well, Toy Story 3 is Pixar, right? So I guess they went with it. But Tangled is its own thing, and I think it deserved nominees. Come on. Who knows? Maybe it won for Best Song or something like that. It had songs in it, right? I don't know. Then there was the last... Well, not the last, because we know there's another one of these. Shrek. Shrek Forever After. Yeah. Didn't get a nomination. Personally, I think this is one of the better Shrek films. I actually think it's the second best Shrek film, really. really brought the series to a close, even though the plot line, which is essentially It's a Wonderful Life, had been done to death even by this point in time. Well, even 30 years ago it had been done to death, really. So, but I still thought it was pretty good. So, then there's another film that didn't get a nomination, Legend of Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Not to be confused with Rise of the Guardians. I'm told this film does have a certain fan base to it. Wasn't Zack Snyder involved in this film somehow? Somebody big was involved in this film. Anyway, so I don't really remember it. I think I saw it, but I'm going to just sort of put like, I'm going to put haven't seen on this because I barely remember anything about this film. I know for sure I sat down and saw this film, but I know I haven't really watched it again since then. And since this is 2010, that happened like, 15 years ago? Yeeh. Yeah, anyway. All right, so join us next time where we get into 2009, and we're going to discuss the best films of that year. For now, this is Mark Rollins from the Geek Church. Okay, time to talk about the 2009 Best Animated Film, Oscar nominees, and winners. And the nominees were Up, Coraline, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Princess and the Frog, and The Secret of Kells. And the winner, Up. Now, in this case, I am in full agreement on this one. Up is a great film, and so I'm just going to agree with the nominations on this. I first saw Up in the theater, and I took my kids to it. We watched it in 3D, and it was an experience to watch. Let me just tell you that. There's something about just the great height and the great story of it, and the adventure of it is just awesome. I absolutely love this film, and I've watched it several times, and this is a Pixar film where you cry at the beginning, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I have to say that if there wasn't Up, Fantastic Mr. Fox would probably get it from me. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a, dare I say it, fantastic film. I absolutely adore this film, and I did not expect to love this film at all. I remember just sort of getting it from the library and just putting it in the DVD player on my laptop while I was doing other work. And I was absolutely enthralled by this film. Just the look of it, what was going on in the storyline, its quirky sense of humor. It's just so many goodness happening here. And I will say that if you haven't seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, you need to. And does it really work? I was actually just thinking about the ending the other day and how maybe the ending doesn't really go for me because I don't really feel like Mr. Fox really learned anything, but he is at least trying to be more of a good man. So, hey, too bad Isle of Dogs didn't really work out, but I think I talked about that at a later time. So let's talk about Coraline. Now, again, this is another stop-motion animated film. I think this is Laika's first film, and it was a great film. This film does have a horror elements to it. I would definitely not recommend this for younger kids. It actually took me a while before I showed it to my kids. I remember when I watched it, I thought like, maybe the kids might like this one. I watched it and I went like, geez, this film goes there. I could not believe what I was watching, which I think is kind of awesome that this film really went in dark places on purpose, and that's great. I have not read the book that this is based on, but I was very satisfied with the long, spidery, blady villain at the end of this thing that I just thought, oh my gosh. Anyway, I just love this film for that. I mean, hey. So, Princess and the Frog, I would have to say, is a good movie, but I don't really think it's a great movie. I think there's some good things in this, and it's great that Disney went back to 2D animation once again. They definitely followed a different formula here. I like the fact that the Disney princess isn't just living in a castle. This Disney princess is a workaholic. That's something new. That's good that they kind of went that direction. The Frog Prince is one of those stories that honestly I don't even know the original version of it. I've just seen the fact that it seems to exist as a book in other movies, like say Shanghai Noon. Seeing this version of it was kind of interesting, especially its setting in, I think, 1920s Louisiana. Not bad. I like the setting on this. You could do more with this. I actually heard that they were actually going to do like a series based on this, but they pulled the plug on it, which is, probably not a good thing. So The Secret of Kells, I never saw it. I'm told it was good. I actually think my daughter saw this one and recommended it to me, and I just don't know why I never just found a copy of this or found it on a streaming service. Maybe it exists somewhere. I really need to see this film. Sorry, I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of at me in the comments on this, and if so, I get it. So, what wasn't good was Planet 51. I saw this one, and yeah, this is back when Dwayne Johnson was sort of rising star, so I guess somebody thought, well, let's put him in their animated film. And interesting concept for a film that is the alien is from Earth and goes to a planet, to the alien's planet. So it's sort of a reverse ET story. Actually, that's kind of interesting, really. But in the end, I don't really think it could work really well for it. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I have seen this film. I don't really like this film. It feels like a film that I probably could like, but I'm not really certain. I'm just never really got into this film as far as what it was really trying to say. I felt like, what is the moral of this film? Like, we shouldn't eat so much or something like... I think that's kind of the biggest issue I have with this film, is what is the major takeaway from this film? Believe it or not, it's from the Lord and Miller team, the guys that gave us, like, Into the Spider-Verse, the Lego movie. Yeah, that's them. They gotta start somewhere. Anyway, so Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure I saw that, and obviously the Ice Age movies really go downhill after the first one, so yeah. Anyway, so don't think of that deserves an Oscar nomination, so smart job. Oh, and The Christmas Carol came out that year. Or A Christmas Carol? Yeah, that one with Jim Carrey in it. Boy, that mocap thing never really worked, did it? Yeah, we're going to talk about mocap as we get to some of the other animated Oscar nominations. This one, yeah. You know a star is too big when they are playing multiple roles in a film, and they had Tom Hanks do that in that other film. What was it called? The Polar Express, and now they did this Christmas film. And I think I've said before that the holiday film usually doesn't get into the best animated Oscar list. For some reason, there are exceptions to that rule. So, Astro Boy, remember this film? I actually really like this film. I would have probably nominated for an Oscar. I actually think there's a lot of good stuff happening in this film. It's a fun, action-oriented film that they still make, and I'm glad when films like this come out. This is before the Marvel Cinematic Universe started to really hit, so we've been kind of choked with superheroes, so I'm not sure you could really make a film like this today without sort of feeling like that, but I like sort of the, I don't know much about Astro Boy, so this is probably a new take on this character who has been around since, I think, the 40s maybe, so who knows. Monsters vs. Aliens. I remember this film, and I remember liking this film. I remember thinking there's some good points in this film. This is a film that I felt like should have gone a bit deeper in its message, but kind of didn't. It kind of sacrificed theme for the sake of plot and action. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's what you should have done for a film like this. I don't know. I mean, this is a film about old school Hollywood monsters meeting aliens. Okay, so there was a film that targeted adults that didn't get nominated called Mary and Max. I've seen this film. It's a claymation film that's done very well about a relationship between a little girl and a guy who I believe has Asperger's or something like that. And I think they have a pen pal type relationship between them. It's rather interesting, and you should see that. That deserved a nomination, honestly. But hey, there were a lot of good choices. I mean, there were a lot of good, 2009 was a good year for animation. What can I say? Anyway, join us next time. We talk about 2008 in the best animated film nominees and winner. Okay, it's time to talk about 2008 best animated film nominees and the winners. And the nominees were WALL-E, Bolt, and Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, there are only like 3 this year. I know, that has happened a few years, so... in this case, I'm in total accord with the winner, which was WALL-E. And yes, this is not only one of the best animated films ever made, it's definitely one of the best speculative fiction films ever made, and there are some great concepts in this film that I really enjoy. This is one of those films that might be hit or miss for you. Some people really enjoy the fact that the opening has no dialogue. and we're seeing a story that's told with images rather than words. And then when WALL-E finally gets out into space, suddenly it gets very crowded. And yeah, honestly, this is one of those times in which, like, I think the story of WALL-E actually gets better in the second act, and that more happens, the stakes are higher, and I love the ending of this film, really. Should there be a sequel to it? No, there should not be. Am I interested in what happened after WALL-E and all his new space friends landed? Yes, I am. But maybe that's another story, but hopefully, I don't know. Pixar, if you want to do that, I guess you could. Anyway, so Bolt is definitely worth a nomination, I guess. And it's definitely a film that is, about a dog that thinks he's super. I've watched this film a few times. It's not one of my favorites as far as the Disney animated films go. Is it fun? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and it really relies upon a little bit of meta storytelling on this thing, as far as, like, you kind of get this feeling like that this dog just wants to be a dog, but yeah. Now, Kung Fu Panda, I believe, deserved its nomination. It's a really good animated film. I didn't really think much of it the first time I watched it, but the more I watch it, the more I see, the more I can relate to Poe's character and how he really wants to be something. And even if he's even not that something, he just wants to have the heart that is fit for it. And I really kind of enjoy that. There's really nothing in Kung Fu Panda that really hasn't been done in any other film. And I think this film knows that, and it's kind of going with that, which is pretty good. So yeah, I think the sequel is better, but I think that this film really works. So there's also Ponyo, which came out this year, at least in American theaters. When we get to Studio Ghibli films, it gets really weird as far as, like, because I've looked at Studio Ghibli films before, and I said, why'd they nominate it this year? That actually came out the year before it. But I remember Ponyo coming out in the theaters here. This is not a film that I really enjoy, honestly. I've watched Ponyo, and yeah, it's not really one of my favorites of the Studio Ghibli films. It feels like it's designed for younger audiences, and it deals with, because I feel like the flood that is happening in the film there should be a darker take on this. This film should be a lot darker than it actually is, and so it feels like it's very much brightened up, made light, and I think that kind of works against the film, but hey. Okay, so Horton Hears a Who came out this year, and Dr. Seuss animated films don't really do so well, I've found, so I guess this one just didn't really do so hot. Don't really know why. I kind of enjoyed this film, but I kind of felt like it was a bit hinged on its stars, Jim Carrey and Steve Carell, or Carroll, how do you ever pronounce his last name. Bit too much in the spotlight on this one, as well as the promotion for this. Okay, there's also the film The Tale of Despero. Do you remember this film about the mouse and the thing? I know I saw this film. I'm guessing I'm going to just say it just didn't deserve a nomination because I never really wanted to watch this film again, but I remember being surprised at how kind of deep it goes as far as this idea of judging people by what they look like and whatever. Had a lot of great voice actors in it, so yeah. So, Clone Wars came out this year. So that Star Wars film? Yeah, I know. I keep forgetting that this film exists. It's really just a few episodes just kind of stuck together. And didn't get a nomination, and it wasn't very popular when it came out. And it took a while before the series really got good, so I can see why. Madagascar 2 also came out this year, and I didn't really like this film. I guess I kind of liked it, but in a way, the Madagascar films kind of peaked, I think, at the first one. So, yeah, that's just my opinion on that. There's also a R-rated film that was called Waltz with Bashir, and I've heard good things about this film. It's pretty rare that we get an R-rated animated film, specifically released to theaters, and specifically ones, and it's very rare that one gets nominated for Best Animated Film Oscar, or even Oscar overall. Actually, I don't think that's ever happened, so, yeah. So, there's also this other film called 999, another R-rated film, which I just heard of this film, and it's also... actually, I don't think Waltz with Bashir is stop motion, but this one is apparently some stop motion film. I haven't seen this film. It's weird that I just found out this exists now. Anyway, so 2008, that's over, and now join us next time where we move into 2007. Okay, it's the 2007 Oscar nominees for Best Animated Film. So what do we have this year? Well, the nominees were Ratatouille, Persepolis, and Surf's Up. I might be mispronouncing that second one, and if I am, I'm sorry. Only 3 nominees this year. Again, I think that happened in 2008, so here's the thing. I'm not surprised that Ratatouille won, and I agree with this. This was a film that I just didn't like at first. It actually took me a while before I realized what this film was trying to do. And I'll talk about it just for a little bit. But basically, you've seen this story done before where apparently the mice sort of live in their own little world and the humans live in their own little world. And there's very little interaction thereof. If you've seen a story like Cinderella, there actually is a lot of interaction. But a lot of times the mice kind of have their own little world, like, say, an American Tale or something like that. And the humans just don't really see this, even though the mice are wearing clothes and stuff like that. Here we actually see a rat actually interact with a human in such a way that they actually can help out each other. But the world is simply not ready for this. And actually, I believe that's what this film is trying to do. The fact that the world is simply not ready for this, but change happens slowly. And I think that's what this film is really trying to say. And for that, it took me several watches before I realized what this film is really trying to do, which means it is really deep. So, Persepolis, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, or Persepolis, yeah. I've not seen, I've read the graphic novel that inspired it. They must have done a good job if this thing got the Oscar nomination, and it's totally black and white, I believe. So there might be hints of color in it, who knows, but yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a story about an Iranian woman. So yeah, and gosh, I wish I could remember more about the graphic novel. Anyway, now Surf's Up is one of those films that I have to admit, I guess it deserves a nomination, but that might be just merely for lack of options. I will have to say that this story could have bombed, but I actually think what saves it is its mockumentary style. The fact that it's done like it's a reality show. I think this actually saves the film. This feels like a film that might have been a different script when it was first initially pitched, and which was just basically your basic sports movie script. The fact that it does and goes into this kind of levels, I actually think is kind of interesting. It's a conceit that actually sold me on the film, and I think I remember, I think we bought this for $3 and just was going to give it as a Christmas present. I remember just sitting down with the kids and watching and just thinking oh, this probably is going to suck, and actually being drawn into this film surprised me a lot. There's something that I think should have been nominated, and I'm going to bring this up now. Meet the Robinsons was another Disney film that came out this year. Where is it? This film is a great animated film. I don't know if I can say it's one of the best animated films ever made, because there are so many good ones. But I'd say for a top 100, it would definitely be up there. And this film really got shelved. I really felt like this is one of those Disney films that they just kind of put out, and then they just kind of expect, I don't know, word of mouth to save it or something like that. A lot of people say Disney really messes up its marketing when it comes to its animated films. And I agree. I think I've seen a lot of commercials for Disney films that actually make me not want to see the film after I've watched the commercial. That's all I'm going to have to say. Meet the Robinsons deals with time travel, but it also deals with this idea that maybe your life might not amount to anything and you're scared. And I really think this film has a lot to say. It is done so well, and I love its style. I love its depiction of the future, and it's awesome. This film is great, and it makes me feel good every time I watch it. Love it. So, in the meantime, Dreamworks had an interesting year. They had B-Movie, which some people call D-Movie, and there's a lot of people that, I don't know, there's a lot of people that really love B-Movie, and there's a lot of people that really hate it. I'm really one of those that really hates it, because, okay, maybe I don't really hate it. I've seen it a few times, and I see what the film is trying to do, but it feels like a pitch that it's that just kind of, they didn't really know what to do from there. And I'm not really satisfied with how this film kind of works and not works. Shrek the Third also came out this year, which is easily the worst Shrek film ever made, unless the fifth one that they're planning to make is even worse than this. And this film is just bad, and DreamWorks just had a hard year with this one. It made a lot of money though, so hey. So what didn't happen this year was Beowulf, and this is another one of those mocap films, which was weird because I remember seeing the trailer for this and I actually thought it was a live action film. It actually took me I think maybe after the trailer was over before I realized, oh, this is one of those type of films, like the Polar Express or something like that. I did see this one and I didn't like it. I felt like this felt like it really should have been an R-rated film, but it didn't get the R rating, and so they had to kind of make it PG and stuff like that. And I felt like somebody really wants to make this computer animated R-rated film, which only Sausage Party was able to really succeed at that. Although I'm sure there's other CG films that maybe I don't know about that probably have this or whatever. Yeah, I know there's some that I don't know about that are more than R-rated, but I don't want to talk about those. They might not be Oscar worthy. Anyway, so let's talk about TMNT. Yes, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had that one great film that came out in this decade, and they had this mediocre one that came out in this decade. And I will admit, I did see this one. I think it is actually more supposed to... I've seen people analyze this thing, and they say it's more supposed to be just... It was probably originally pitched as just like a multi-story arc for that television show that used to be on, and they just sort of made a whole movie out of it. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one of those franchises that I swear has been done and redone so many times, and it's not that old. And it's not like Superman or Batman, which are almost turning 100. But this one is like less than 50 years old, and we're still rebooting this thing. Granted, the last reboot was pretty good. So, hey, if you haven't seen Mutant Mayhem, see it. But this one, I don't think it deserves an Oscar. Now, the real question is, why was the Simpsons movie not nominated? Maybe it's a TV show. I don't know if there's a criteria on this, that you can't take a movie that's based off a TV show and nominate it. You should have with the Simpsons movie. The Simpsons movie is absolutely great and phenomenal, and I love watching it, and I swear the jokes, every joke in it lands, and it's one of those just great films. Probably the best work of The Simpsons since, well, the early 90s, really, because, yeah, I know, because the show is that old, and hey. But the film was worth its nomination. Don't know why I didn't get it, but hey. Anyway, let's talk about 2006 next time with the best Oscar animated films and their nominees. This is Mark Rollins from the Geek Church, signing off. Okay, time to talk about the 2006 Best Animated Films, Oscar winners, and nominees. And the nominees were Happy Feet, Cars, and Monster House. And I'm beginning to see, I think they only picked like 3 of them. I wonder when they switched to 5, but anyway. The winner was Happy Feet. Now, I'm going to say I disagree. I don't really like Happy Feet. I've watched it several times before. Here's the thing. I believe its message is pretty good. But at the time, I disagreed with this message because I was kind of a different type of person back then, and I felt like this film was trying to push a certain agenda. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and that's fine. Everything does push an agenda. We need to be... if you're going to watch a movie with a theme, that theme is the agenda. And you know what? Happy Feet talks about environmentalism, and it also talks about... religious intolerance, really, and is kind of the, well, maybe not religion, but actually intolerance in general is really what it's about. So yeah, and kind of being your own self and stuff like that. There are things I've actually seen in Happy Feet that have been done, I think, better in other animated films, and maybe that's what I kind of want to see on this thing. Anyway, so am I really going to have to take Cars for this? I know that every year, if I disagree with the winner, then I feel like I have to pick a winner. Am I really going to take Cars? Because, honestly, I didn't really like this film. It's grown on me now. I've seen it a few times. In fact, my kids were really into this film back in the day, and because the toys were pretty awesome. I think they had all the little Lightning McQueen and Mater and stuff like that. Its story is just Doc Hollywood with cars, okay? I mean, let's face it. Everybody has said that. You don't need me to say that. It's a little too familiar, but I guess it's a good film. And Pixar usually makes them right. So, yeah. I think about this time, this is when Pixar was starting to make a movie per year. This is when the year that I think they started with it. So, but 2006, I guess, was just not a great year for animation on the board. Monster House is a film that really should have embraced its concept, been more of an R-rated film and more of a horror film. As it is, it's more of a mocap type of film that doesn't really work for me, and it is freaky, but not in a good way. Not like Coraline was. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say, probably didn't deserve a nomination. But I think Flushed Away, which was done by Aardman, that was part of their 5 picture deal with Dreamworks. Apparently Flushed Away didn't do really well, but honestly, I really like this film. I really would have liked to see it get nominated. I think this film is very clever. I like the little world it establishes, and some of the stuff that happens in the film is pretty, not only just great, but it's also cute. And I like its cartoonish little gags. So, yeah. Also, Over the Hedge. I think this deserved a nomination. I actually liked its commentary about consumerism on as far as this goes. The problem is it's kind of, when this film came out, they did so many little things, tie-ins with Walmart and stuff like that, that honestly, it kind of removes it's basically an anti-consumerist film that leans into consumerism. And but I will have to say, maybe that's kind of the point of this film. And I don't know. I like this film. I like the relationship between the raccoon and the turtle, and I can't even remember their names now. It's been a while since I've seen this one. Okay, so let's talk about Ice Age 2. This was the first Ice Age sequel, and it really should have been the last. I didn't even finish this film the first time I saw it. I think I have watched it again, but I just don't really think it's a good sequel. And sadly, the really diminishing... Okay, I think Dawn of the Dinosaurs might have been a step up, but that's a small staircase. Anyway, so then there was films like The Ant Bully. Remember this one? Had a big A-list cast, like Nicolas Cage, Julia Roberts, even Meryl Streep was in this thing. No one remembers it. Yeah. Maybe for good reason. Don't think it deserved a nomination. Then there was another film called Happily Never After, which, yeah, I didn't see this one, so I'm going to have to say it's been mostly forgotten. Now, Disney actually had this animated film out called The Wild, which felt like a ripoff of Madagascar. I mean, it has a plot of zoo animals going to Africa or something like that, and I'm going like... normally DreamWorks feels like it plays the second fiddle here, but I felt like in this case, I just went like, why did Disney put all their eggs in this basket here for this year? I don't know. Crazy. So Curious George came out this year, and by that time, 2D animation had pretty much since died, really. So it's, so... pretty much nobody was going to see that. I think they put that to January. Had Will Ferrell and Drew Barrymore in it, but it didn't really work. But Nickelodeon had the film Barnyard, which, I don't know. Is that like Animal Farm? I would love to know if Barnyard and Animal Farm are essentially the same movie. Haven't seen that. I know it as a series. So, yeah. Open Season is also another film I don't think I've actually just sat down and watched entirely. I think I've watched like maybe the beginning of it or something and just didn't really feel rather interested in it. But yeah, had way too many direct-to-DVD sequels which never got nominated for anything, and neither did this one, for good reason. This also had some R-rated films that came out that were animated, like the film Renaissance, which I actually think I did try and watch. Really interesting style to it. I don't really know kind of this noir style that is, I think it's mostly monochromatic in this film. So, very interesting. Scanner Darkly, I think, is a film that, not really for everyone, but I think that you could really enjoy this film. It's very different. The fact it uses, I think, rotoscoping. Like, I actually think they filmed these scenes and they just kind of animated over them. Has Keanu Reeves and I think Robert Downey Jr. in it, and interesting premise for a film. Very dystopian sci-fi kind of thing, maybe. Yeah, I think I've seen this film twice, and I don't really remember that much about it. Then the film Paprika. This film has one of the best opening themes ever. If you've never heard its opening theme, just find it on YouTube or something like that. I know I listen to it like practically every day, every time I'm kind of in a massage chair or something like that. It's very... this film, I think, has been accused, or accused isn't really the best word. Perhaps the film Inception has been accused of ripping this film off. There are some similar elements. This is a film about going into dreams, and it's also about assuming other identities. It's a rather interesting film that really shouldn't have been passed up, and more people need to know about this film. So, anyway, this has been Mark Rollins from the Geek Church. Join us next time when we do 2005 and their animated films. Yeah. Okay, time to talk about 2005 Best Animated Film Oscar winners and nominees. Now, this time there's only 3, which I actually think at some point in time they went to 5, but still we're in the 3 stage. So I don't know why they just... Anyway, let's get to the nominees. There's Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Corpse Bride, and Howl's Moving Castle. And the winner was the Wallace and Gromit movie. Yeah, really? I'm in disagreement, in case you haven't figured this out. Don't get me wrong, Wallace and Gromit is a fun film, but I just don't think it deserves to be the best animated film of the year. And I've said this about Aardman before. Their films are often very good. Well, actually, their later films really only have a few good gags in them, and that's pretty much about it. I do, of course, appreciate the style, claymation, and of course, Wallace and Gromit was a pioneer for this, with several of its shorter films, which I believe have won Oscars for Best Animated Short Films. So I guess it was a matter of time before they moved up to a full hour-and-a-half one, but Anyway, so I would have chosen Howl's Moving Castle. This is a film I remember watching with my kids, thinking like, oh, they might like this, and who knows. You know, when you've got kids that are that young and they're running rampant, and you kind of want to slow down, sometimes you just put in a movie, and sometimes it doesn't even matter what the movie is. I did not expect my firstborn to love this film as much as they did, and that, I think, is pretty amazing. And I've watched this film several times, and it's one of those films in which, like, I'm not really certain all the events are really happening in it. This is one of those films in which, like, you actually have to listen to background characters talk about plot elements to actually figure out what is even going on in this film. And even then, I'm not even sure if I've even got this right. Studio Ghibli films can be like this sometimes, very confusing and stuff like that. But the visuals in this film, I think, really make up for this, and there's a lot going on that's really interesting in this film. So, yeah. So, Corpse Bride, was that really nominated? I guess it was. This is one of those films I think I've watched again, and I think I do gain a greater appreciation of it. It's definitely trying something different. It should not be a film that's targeted for kids in any way, and I think it's like designed to be kind of this sort of, I don't know. It's definitely a Tim Burton style film. I don't think he directed it. I think the same guy that did Nightmare Before Christmas did it. And yeah, it's I didn't really expect a film that talks about arranged marriage to have a character actually like the person that they were arranged to marry on this one. This is a film that deals with abuse and other very dark subject matter. And I like its kind of black and white style. And then taking the afterlife, showing it as full of color and life. Very interesting concept for a film, but I'll say, you know what, let's give it an Oscar nomination. What the heck? Now, certain films got passed over, and I think it's unfair. Madagascar should have at least been nominated. I like Madagascar. It is a very fun film. At first, I didn't really think it had any deep theme, but the more that I watch it, the more I think that it actually has a really theme about how even though you probably shouldn't be friends, sometimes you are friends, and I think that's really about what this series is really about. And yeah, they've made a few more of them, and I don't know, maybe it's some of these things get to have diminishing returns. So I know some people might not like the suggestion, but I like the film Hoodwinked. Okay, I know its animation isn't very great. I like the way it's telling its story of using the Little Red Riding Hood and essentially telling it like a detective story where you have, or telling one of those stories where you have like one person tells it from their point of view, and then you see it from another person's point of view, and then you see what's going on in this. It has a sucky sequel, but I actually really enjoyed this film a lot, and I actually think it should have been nominated for an Oscar. Okay, I'm going to say it. You can at me at the comments on that. Not a good year for Disney and its animated films. This is the year they released Valiant, a film about pigeons in World War II, and did I see this? I'm pretty sure I did. I barely remember any of it. But of course, there is Chicken Little, which goes in the annals of animation infamy, and this film really sucked. So neither Valiant nor Chicken Little deserved an Oscar, so yeah, or a nomination. Anyway, I'm surprised Robots didn't make that cut. Robots is a really interesting film that, yeah, I'm surprised how old it is. It's kind of fun. I really like its style, and I like its look. I think it does have a great point about see a need, fill a need, and I think there's a lot that can be done with that. And so, yeah, surprised. Another thing I'm surprised didn't get nominated is the film 9. This is a film that is super creepy that this is one of those, here's the thing about animation. We still have this thing that animation is for kids. So every once in a while, someone tries to put out a very mature animated film, and they slap a PG-13 on it because I think they cut it down. I feel like 9 has very R-rated material in it and is dealing with the idea of fascism and its effect on society. And I think, and the world it takes place in is very odd and unusual, but good and extremely imaginative. So you should watch this film if you haven't watched it. Anyway, so next time we're going to talk about the 2004 Best Animated Oscar nominations and winner. Yeah. Okay, time to talk about the 2004 Best Animated Films nominees and winners, and those they just passed up. So 2004 was, the nominees were The Incredibles, Shark Tale, and Shrek 2. And the winner was The Incredibles. Do I agree? Oh, yes. I believe that The Incredibles is a great film, and it gets better every time I watch it. Sequel? No. But the first is originally, it's just a well-done film and was really taking us... Really, if you look at The Incredibles, it takes place in actually a pretty well-developed superhero universe. Which we've seen done to death now that Marvel and DC have had their little runs in their cinematic connected universes. But I really like this kind of standalone story, which is really about somebody who's kind of missing the glory days of their life, and he sees his family as kind of a rebirth of that. That's really awesome. So yeah, but Shark Tale. Really? Was there really not anything else that you could have nominated? Shark Tale is... Most people think Shark Tale is one of DreamWorks' worst films. And I have to agree, I don't like this film. Because it just feels like a film that it feels like generic animated film with this plot line done that feels like it's already been done. And there's no reason for it to take... There's absolutely no reason for it to take place in a fish world other than the fact that Finding Nemo exists. And it's just clearly how this film was pitched, I guess. But has a huge stars in it that I just can't believe were even talked into being this film. It did make its money. And don't be confused by that, because I guess there was probably nothing better going on at the time. So, Shrek 2. Do I think it's worthy of an Oscar? I'm going to have to say, sure. I don't really enjoy this film as much as I love the first one. Some people say this film is better than the first. I definitely think, story-wise, it takes it in a direction that I like, whereas that Fiona and Shrek don't really get necessarily happy ever after. Once the honeymoon ends, they start getting into marital problems, and it feels very realistic. It gets kind of convoluted there, and when we see at the end with the giant kaiju-sized gingerbread man, that gets really weird. I didn't even know what to really... I actually thought that was a really bad addition to the film. I didn't really think that worked. I kind of felt like you really should have... Is really that the best thing you can come up with? Don't just drop a big monster in the plot line at the end and call it good. It wasn't really that good. So, yeah. But it did give us Puss in it, and he got a great movie eventually, so hey. All right, so let's talk about Home on the Range. Yeah, this did not deserve an Oscar, okay? This did not deserve a nomination. This doesn't deserve to be even mentioned. I feel like this was a 2D film that was so bad it shut down Disney's 2D animated enterprise, period. Don't quote me on that. I don't know, but I almost feel like... I mean, this is a film about 3 dairy cows that try and stop like a land baron. Who thought of this? I've watched it, and does it have some funny parts? It kind of does, but I just can't even. It feels like a film that you'd show your kids, like maybe a 4-year-old, and even the 4-year-old wouldn't like this thing. But anyway, so that was the end of pretty much anything 2D until The Princess and the Frog years later. But yeah, it's just so bleeding bad. Anyway, so The Polar Express came out at this time. Didn't get nominated. Mocap, trying that. I remember Tom Hanks was really big trying to sell this thing. I think Robert Zemeckis directed this thing. I don't like this film. It comes off as creepy, and the fact that it's... And in the end, I'm not really certain what its message is. It's about believing, but where it's a bell, so he believes in Santa. And then even the narrator says, like, and then that bell didn't ring. It's like, so what was the whole point of this then? I don't know. I just kind of went like, yeah. Anyway, I realized that they were only doing like 3 animated movies, like per nominations per year. That seems to be the norm as far as this goes. SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Please tell me why you didn't nominate that. You took Shark Tale over that. SpongeBob SquarePants movie is one of the great... As far as like a television show turned movie, that's the blueprint. That is like what you do as far as the awesomeness of it. I know recent SpongeBob offerings of movies have not been very good lately. Just watch the Plankton one if you don't believe me. I did a 10-minute rant on that if you want to watch that. But yeah, this film should have been nominated because it is so funny and it's so great. And I love watching this film, really. There was another movie that was based on a TV show called Teacher's Pet. I've never even watched this show, and I didn't even know it had a movie until years later. And I've not watched either, so can't really judge it. So, if you wanted something else to nominate besides, say, I don't know, Shrek 2, or like if you were going to get to the 5 one, you could take Steam Boy. Steam Boy is a beautifully animated film. I really have to say it's not really one of the... I think it needs a bit of a deeper story to it, but it's honestly kind of fun to watch. So, yeah, it came out around this time, so you could have done that. Anyway, join us next time when we talk about the 2003 winners and nominees. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the 2003 Best Animated Film Oscar winners and nominees. So, let's get into it. Let's start with the nominees. Finding Nemo, Brother Bear, and the Triplets of Belleville. And the winner is Finding Nemo. Yep. Breathtaking story. Wonderful animated fish. Great comedy. Of course, I agree. This was easily the best animated film this year. Probably the reason why you make a best animated category, which at the time was still 2 years this was like their 3rd time doing it. Anyway, so what more can I say? I don't know why its sequel never got a nomination, but hey, that's that. So, Brother Bear. No, I don't think it deserves an Oscar nomination. I don't like this film. The only thing I like about the film Brother Bear is that if you get the DVD, there's a commentary that has the moose on it. And the moose commentary is about the best thing about watching Brother Bear, and you're not even watching Brother Bear officially. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Brother Bear. There's nothing in this film that I really enjoyed about... I feel like the plot has been kind of done before, and... yeah, I'm going to have to say no Brother Bear. Triplets of Bellevue is one that I haven't seen, and from what I can tell, it kind of has this 30s, kind of 40s style of animation that just kind of creeps me out. I don't really like that type of style, and I deliberately avoid films that kind of have that sort of freaky style. Like, things like Cuphead, that are supposed to be like an homage to that kind of thing. In older cartoons, like some of Porky Pig's earlier adventures, because I think the character just turned, I don't know, 80, 70, some very old age. Like those older Warner Brothers cartoons and even the Disney ones I avoid because I never really like that kind of spaghetti arms kind of style animation here. So anyway, I just haven't seen it. The sad part is there is a film that I think should have been nominated, which was Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. This film flopped, I know. Watch this film. You might be pleasantly surprised by what you see. I know I was. I didn't really have much expectations of it. This is a story with some great adventure, great action, and it actually has a pretty interesting conclusion to it that I thought is really about friendship and brotherhood. Surprised me a lot. And, of course, the main villain in it, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, Eris, the Goddess of Chaos, is worth the price of admission. I can tell you about that. So, other films that didn't make the cut this year, Rugrats Go Wild. Was that the one where they met the Wild Thornberrys? Yeah, I think that was the crossover they had with the Wild Thornberrys. Yeah. Also, Anything in the Jungle didn't really work very well for an Oscar nomination. Like, Jungle Book 2 actually was released in theaters, and yeah, that didn't get a nomination or something like that. The other films like The Animatrix, again, I don't know if that was ever released in the theaters, but yeah, that was back when when Matrix Fever was popular, when the two sequels kind of came out this year. They had that one that sort of was stories from it. Don't know why that didn't make the cut. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the shorts from it got nominated for an Oscar. Who knows? The anime Tokyo Godfathers actually came out at this time. I'm told that's a very classic film. Where's that? I don't know. Anime's films, they start ending up on best animated film lists later on, but not quite here. So, anyway. Yeah. Okay, I think we're about to end here, so join us next time where we talk the 2002 Best Animated Oscars films, nominees, and winner. Mark Rollins from TheGeekChurch, signing off. Okay, it's time to talk about the 2002 Best Animated Film Oscars nominees, winners, losers, and those that should have been nominated. The nominees for that year were Spirited Away, Ice Age, Lilo and Stitch, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and Treasure Planet. And the winner was Spirited Away. This might be a source of contention to a lot of people out there, but honestly, I didn't think Spirited Away deserved the win that year. Don't get me wrong, is Spirited Away a good film? Yes, it is. Is Studio Ghibli great? Yes, it is. Do they usually put out good films? Yeah, they do. Usually they are. They're usually deeper films and stuff like that. And Spirited Away is one of those films that I had to admit, it's one of those films that I kind of go like, okay, what did I just watch here? What am I supposed to take away from this? This gets kind of complicated in some places. Studio Ghibli films tend to get very complicated. I do like the fact that oftentimes there's no bad guy. That's kind of awesome. However, yeah, what can I say? Alright, so, and honestly, this film was released in 2001, but I guess since it didn't get its American release, they count it. I think I've talked about this. This is a point of contention for a lot of these films, Asian animated films that eventually come over here. I don't know why. The Academy just seems to make this distinction. Okay, so I really think the winner actually should have been Ice Age. And I realize the whole reason why, and I'll get to this in my next review, or next time I talk about this, but I think the whole reason why the Best Animated Oscars were created was because Shrek had such mainstream and commercial success, as well as critical success. So I think they just kind of had to make up a category for it. And Ice Age, I feels like the animation might not be as good as, say, some of the other CG animation films, even of its time, but it still has a great story to it. And I really think this should have won, really. Yes, I think Lilo and Stitch is a great film. Do I think it should be live action? Of course not, but we're getting it anyway. There's a lot going on in this film that I think is really good. I think I like its sense of humor. This is one of those films that could have been very super big in its effects, and its story is huge and epic, and it's space opera, but it doesn't. But it's really about family, and that's what the film is really about. It's really about a relationship between this little girl and her little alien dog thing. And you know what? It's cute, and I still love it. So, now, let's talk about Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. I know I saw it. I never saw it again. I don't know. It's a horse film. Not really any... There is dialogue in this film, and it's done by the humans. It does emphasize showing rather than telling, which I like. I like films that do this, sort of like the opening of Wall-E, or that the recent animated film winner Flow, which has not a single line of dialogue. So yeah, maybe is it ahead of its time? Yeah, probably not. Matt Damon's on it. Anyway, so Treasure Planet, of course I really like Treasure Planet. Do I think it deserves to win the Oscar that year? I think Ice Age is just a better movie, okay? But I think Treasure Planet is an overlooked gem. I think that the animation is beautiful. The story is also very good. It relies very well on its source material, although I think in the original Treasure Island book, I don't really think we're supposed to think that Silver is such a great character. That is, Silver does have some kind of redemption arc through it, but in the book, he does not. He is a villain. But I think I like their take on it a lot better than the original book. And considering the original book is a classic, well, that speaks very highly of the film. Does the world that it has make sense? Not really, but I think that's kind of what I like about it. There's something really imaginative about it. So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's 5 animated films. Usually the first time they did with 3, and then usually every year after that it was just 3. So it must have been a great year for animation. What wasn't great was 8 Crazy Nights. Yeah, and Adam Sandler's little foray into animation just didn't really work, and still doesn't. For some reason, his animated properties just never seem to get an Oscar nomination, although sometimes I think they should. This one, I've heard that this film was not good, and I've really never heard a positive review of this film, really. Most people say, like, this film absolutely sucks and is a bad representation of Hanukkah. It's probably the only Hanukkah film there really is, honestly. Anyway, so the first VeggieTales film, Jonah, came out this year and was not a success, and I could get in a whole thing about why VeggieTales isn't as big as it used to be, and I'm not going to. This film is not very good. Okay, this film is essentially like, if you ever got those cassettes they used to have, you're essentially getting a longer form of that, and not as epic as it really should be, because I can think of a lot of those earlier films of VeggieTales that are better than the Jonah movie. And they really banked a lot on this film and hoping to really take the franchise off, and it didn't really work. But hey, don't really want to get into that. Now, believe it or not, Disney also had another 2D animated film come out this year with Return to Neverland, the sequel to Peter Pan. No one seems to talk about that. I mean, I think that's official canon, maybe, as far as Peter Pan goes. But Peter Pan is one of those stories that just keeps getting told and retold over and over again. Like, you get Hook, and then you have Pan, and, you know, some are better than others, so who knows. Nickelodeon's Wild Thornberrys movie came out at this time. Yeah, I think that's what... I've lost count of how many films Nickelodeon had put out in the theaters by that time. And eventually they joined up with the Rugrats, and then I can't even remember, a few years later, or maybe a year later, I don't really remember. But yeah, a lot of people like that show. I never really watched it, so yeah, I haven't seen it. There's a film that came out from Studio Ghibli that, again, this gets kind of because iffy as far as like when it actually did come out. But I show that 2002, the film The Cat Returns came out. I've seen this film, and it is worth an Oscar nomination. This is a really fun film, and if you watch the American version, it has voices by Anne Hathaway, Cary Elwes, Peter Boyle, and it is it's just fun, okay? It really is. I don't know if there's a really deeper story to it, but I remember watching this and just thinking like, wow, this is kind of awesome. So yeah, that deserved a nomination. Anyway, join us next time where we're going to conclude our series by talking about the first year of the Best Animated Oscar nomination with 2001. Anyway, this is Mark Rollins in the Geek Church signing off. All right, time to talk about 2001, not the movie, but the year and the best animated Oscar films of that time. And this was the first year they ever did it. So this is going to be the last episode of the show, unless I decide to make, I don't know, I might make some epilogue or something like that. I'm working on it. Anyway, so the nominees this year were Shrek, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, and Monsters, Inc. And the winner was Shrek. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to argue on this one. You really think I'm going to argue on this one? Shrek is a great film overall. It is really awesome. I love watching it. I don't care how good or not good the animation is. I actually think the animation still holds up. I'm actually surprised this film is as good as it was, and I think everyone else was really surprised at it too. I get the feeling like Dreamworks probably did a Hail Mary pass with this, not really expecting this to be as big as a hit as it was. And now we have like several sequels and another sequel on the way for it. The story is just brilliantly funny, as well as heartwarming and heartbreaking in several places. So I'm actually surprised at how edgy and sad sometimes this is. This feels like a film that Pixar would make, and it shows that DreamWorks was a major player in the animation world. Not so much now, but I really won't want to get into that. Sorry, Monsters, Inc., you are a great film still. I think you have a good story to tell as well. I really like the world you created, and I really love your sequel, which really got passed up for a nomination. For why? Anyway, the story is great. It is just as funny, and you had a lot to compete with Shrek and the Harry Potter movie, which had come out at around the same time. Not to mention Lord of the Rings, I think, came out this year. Yeah, 2001 was a good and bad year, and I'm not going to talk about the bad. So, as far as what? Jimmy Neutron? Did you really take it? Because it just was there really any other options for that? There was, and I'm going to get into that, but I'll talk about Jimmy Neutron now. I've watched this film. It's a funny little film. You're not really supposed to take it seriously, and because, I mean, can you believe this film about this boy genius trying to do this? Well, no, you can't. I mean, you're obviously not supposed to take it seriously. They go into space with amusement park rides, for crying out loud, and they land on an asteroid, and they're still breathing, for crying out loud. You're not supposed to take any of this thing really seriously. So, yeah. Eventually they did the show, which I found out it was an offshoot of this. I actually thought that the show came first. So yeah, and I think there's a lot of things like that. And I think now, if I'm pretty sure, I don't really think I've ever seen like a best animated film that was based off a show that turned into a movie get nominated. Maybe that might be one of the criterias. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to check on that. Okay, so let's talk about Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Why was this not nominated? Why did Jimmy Neutron get nominated, but not this? If you're going to pick three, why did that not get put in the third category? Atlantis, the Lost Empire is a film I love to watch. It's a great adventure story, but sadly, these great adventure stories that don't really have Disney princesses or musicals in them don't really work out very well for Disney. Just look at some of these other nominees I've talked about, like Treasure Planet and stuff like that. Why don't those work? I don't know. I'd love to see a live-action version of this. Where's that, Disney? Can you give me that instead of Lilo and Stitch? All right, this is starting to sound like one of my rants. And when I say rants, I tend not to get very angry on my rants. But man, I'm telling you, this was a risk for Disney to do, and I'm actually surprised they did this. Because at the time, Disney was putting out like one animated movie per year. And I really felt they were trying to put and they usually try and put their best in it. You remember the Disney Renaissance where we would get like really one decent film a year, and some of those were like Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, really good films, and I'll talk about those some other time. But Atlantis, the Lost Empire deserved a nomination. Jeez. Okay, so what probably doesn't deserve a nomination is Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. This one I really wanted to see because I thought the animation on that looked gorgeously beautiful, and it's weird that animation I think looks better than mocap style animation, but in spite of its style, there's really I really found it hard to find a story in this film, and honestly, it has nothing to do with Final Fantasy, really. So I don't even know why they called it that, because there is actually a Final Fantasy movie that. Oh crud! Did I not talk about that? Shoot. Okay. Every once in a while, as I do these things, I realize there's a movie that I skipped talking about. I forgot when that Final Fantasy movie came out. Shoot. I'm gonna have to. Ugh. Anyway, so, but yeah, that just didn't deserve an Oscar nomination, so. Hey, you remember Waking Life? Yeah, this is another rotoscope film. I think it's done by Richard Linklater. Okay, I don't know this, but I think that this person did the Scanner Darkly, but I don't know, okay? I really need to verify that. I probably should have verified that. Okay, fine. Let's just say Waking Life exists. It's a film where just characters just talk about life. And it's really just a film that was filmed and they just animated over it. Thanks to rotoscoping, you can kind of do that. I've watched it. I think it has some interesting points to it, but here's the thing. That's all it really is. It's just people talking about interesting stuff. You can't really make a film out of that, and even if I think this film would be just as interesting if you just had the characters talk about stuff and not animate over it. Okay, 2001 was also Osmosis Jones. Remember that film? That has, I realize why that didn't get a nomination, even if they could have fit it in there. It's really a lot of live action mixed with 2D animation. It probably isn't even good enough for a nomination, really. This film isn't really that good. I mean, I've watched it a few times, but I mean, in the end, I have to say, like, yeah, it's not exactly a classic. Yeah. Same applies for a film called Monkey Bone. I think I tried to watch this film. I think I did watch this film. I think it's part like claymation, part animation style. Here's the issue I'm going to talk about. Later on in the Best Animated categories, a film called Marcel the Shell with Shoes On was nominated for Best Animated Oscar Film. And that film features an animated character in it, but it lives in its own live action world. So I don't know how that film got nominated. And yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, really. So, what can I say? Anyway, so that concludes our Best Animated Films for the Oscars, because 2001 was the first year they did it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do after this, but just keep watching The Geek Church, and we'll have something for you. You can count on that. Anyway, this is Mark Rollinson, The Geek Church, signing off. Okay, now that I've finished talking about all 25 years worth of Oscars, or 24 years, it's something like that. It's almost 25. I want to talk about the times where I actually agreed with the winner, and that was about 12 times. Now, there were times where I thought I didn't agree with the winner because I thought another nomination should have happened. That happened about 10 times. And then there was a time where I thought, like, I didn't agree with the winner, and I thought that the one that should have won should have been at least nominated. And that happened twice. So basically, it's 12 on 12 for that. I actually did the pie chart graph, and yeah, I discovered that so basically, according to my opinion, and this has all been my opinion, the Oscars are half right. So hey, that's just my opinion there. Okay, as a little bonus, I want to do sort of a final 10. Basically, I want to imagine a reality in which the Oscars chose a Best Animated Film since 1991. And why 1991? Well, I've already explained. Beauty and the Beast was a major contender that year, and maybe that should have opened up that Best Animated Film Oscar category then. Took him 10 years, but actually, yeah. I think I've already discussed what made why 2001 was the big deal breaker there, and that was probably due just to Shrek alone. So, yeah. I guess they didn't... I guess no one felt right nominating Shrek for a Best Picture Oscar or Best Overall Picture, and they just kind of created that new category. It's a theory of mine, but hey, so basically that whole category was invented so Shrek could get an award. How nice. Anyway, okay, 2000, I would say Chicken Run would be the Best Picture winner that I would pick. Now, there were some interesting contenders. Emperor's New Groove came out that year. Dinosaur and Road to El Dorado were also interesting, and there was also Titan AE, a film which I think has been kind of underrated over the years, and at least would have deserved a Oscar nomination simply because of the innovations in its animation alone. Ditto on that on Dinosaur, because that was a landmark film as far as how they did the animation on that. For 1999, I'm going to say The Iron Giant should have won, but there were also interesting contenders because in this year, Toy Story 2, Tarzan, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut also came out, and also Fantasia 2000 came out that year, so big year for animation. I mean, maybe they should have had that one be the the one where they introduce it. But anyway, for 1998, The Prince of Egypt overall, easily I would say for that one. But I mean, I got a soft spot in my heart for that one, and yeah. There were other films that came out, like Mulan is also a great film, ditto A Bug's Life. Even Ants I would have supported as far as nominations. And the Rugrats movie I haven't seen, but I guess I would have nominated it, because, yeah, I mean, if you needed a fifth one. Okay, for 1997, for me, if I were in the Oscars, I would have picked 1997's Hercules, Disney version, as the winner of that. Some people are probably going to at me on this because Princess Mononoke did come out that year, and I think that is a spectacular film, but honestly, there are times in which I have to say I love this film more. And also that year that came out was Anastasia, Cats Don't Dance, and Perfect Blue. And I don't think I've watched Cats Don't Dance, but Perfect Blue I know I have seen, and Anastasia, I just kind of felt like that was a derivative of Disney, but if you need a nomination, there it was. Okay, for 1996, I would take a film that I really actually hated when it first came out, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think this film is pretty good now, and a lot of people are still talking about it. There were other films in 1996, like James and the Giant Peach, as well as Beavis and Butthead Do America. Maybe I should have taken the Beavis and Butthead one. And for 1995, Toy Story, hands down, easily. Other films that came out were Pocahontas and Ghost in the Shell. Now, I think I've mentioned before, when it comes to Asian films or anime type films, it tends to take a year before they even arrive here and then on theaters, or at least that's how the Oscars seems to view that. I've kind of noticed that, you know, like kind of with Spirited Away, it actually came out the year prior, but then it won like that following year, and it gets really confusing there. For 1993, I would have to say Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. I think that was the best one that came out that year. Granted, A Nightmare Before Christmas came out this year, and yeah, that is a landmark film, and I can't deny it, but I don't like it as much as Batman, and this is, of course, my opinion. There's also the Don Bluth film, We're Back. Remember that? Yeah, I know. Don Bluth was starting to throw his hand in a lot of these situations. So, yeah. And by 1992, there's really only one animated film we should talk about, Aladdin, which should have won the Oscar. Now, Ferngully also came out this year, weird. And there really wasn't, basically for all these categories that I did, I basically just did a search on Google as far as animated films that came out in X year, stuff like that. When it comes to the early 90s, like 1992 and 1991, there's really only a handful of choices to really pick from, and many of the films are really obscure, and some of them look like they were direct-to-video sort of things. And so I basically just said, well, it's either Aladdin or Ferngully here, and that was that. And of course, for 1991, I would have picked Beauty and the Beast, and I probably would have picked it for Best Picture because honestly, I think it's a better film than Silence of the Lambs. But hey, I don't get to choose these things. And sadly, the only other animated films that came out that year were Rock-a-Doodle and Rover Dangerfield, and not exactly the RRR I'm looking for. Anyway, so yeah, okay, that was really a bad joke. That doesn't even make sense, but you get what I'm saying. Beauty and the Beast was, if there was that animated category there, oh man, Beauty and the Beast would have smoked any competition, and it almost smoked the Oscars with the Best Picture nomination. So yeah, am I regretful of that? No, because I have to admit, the way I've seen the Oscars, and usually the film they pick has to be a very certain type of film. And it's really hard to describe what type of film usually wins this. So, and there are exceptions to be made, like I think in 2003 or 2004, they actually gave an Oscar to Peter Jackson for his third Lord of the Rings movie, which, I mean, that's usually never how that goes. But, yeah. But considering all the other films before that, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and Two Towers, they were nominated, but they didn't win. I kind of get the feeling that was sort of like a makeup award, so it's for like basically telling Peter Jackson, like, yeah, you did great on this. This is awesome. Like I said, sometimes the Oscars give out a special award or something like that. Something tells me if they could have given a special award to Mr. Jackson, maybe they could have done that. I don't know. weird. Okay, so I'm not really certain if I've really talked about why even the Oscars even nominate some of these films, because I've said that some of those that get nominated are just ones that are not really good, like, artistically. Like they nominated like Shark Tale and Jimmy Neutron, for crying out loud. Films that I just think like, wow, these are really pandering to little kids. I mean, what's next? Is there going to be a Care Bears movie thrown in there or something like that? I mean, you hear what I'm saying here on this. And I found out some things because I talked about how there's some criteria that they have for this, because apparently the requirement for the best animation film is that it has to be done by a frame-by-frame technique. And apparently the motion capture that was used in such films like, say, Polar Express, Beowulf, and others of that type, like Mars Needs Moms, is not itself an animation technique. So, and animation has to be 75% of the pic's running time, with some exceptions to be made. For example, I think I've talked about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On and how surprised I was that that got nominated for Best Animated Film, when it is in fact not really an animated film. It's more of a film that's done in live action with some animation kind of stuck in there. I'm not certain why they decided to do that. And maybe it's because Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is such a great film that somebody had to give it an Oscar, or at least nominate it, or at least give it some accolade somewhere. And hey, exceptions can be made for that. Okay, I'd have to say I'm optimistic about the future of animation, only because it's getting a greater appreciation from audiences. Now, I think there's always going to be a certain type of audience which will always look at animation and think cartoons. I got a mom who I can't get to watch a good animated film, even though, because they think of it as something juvenile. I feel like we're going to lose that generation eventually, because I feel like I talked about how I've watched some of these films with my kids, and it gave them a greater appreciation for films in general. I was surprised how much they liked, say, Howl's Moving Castle or something like that, which is a very mature story, but even at a young age, you can still enjoy the film altogether. And I feel like we are, and I think I've mentioned that there are a lot of, some of these films are R-rated because they are targeted for an adult crowd. Like Mona Lisa, which, for example, is definitely, live action claymation, but, it's definitely not something you want to show your kids. And I feel like we're going to get certain films that are going to be like this as we go. And the thing is, I think there's always going to be, I don't know if animation will always have this stigma to it, like it's juvenile. I would like to think we are having that the generation that is thinking that is going to just eventually die off. But then again, I thought that about, say, racism, because as a kid I was told racism is wrong, you shouldn't do it. But it's still frickin' around. And I would think like, okay, shouldn't racism just kind of die off at this point in time? Well, no, unfortunately it's not. And I feel like the stigma as far as animation goes of it being just cartoons is going to be around with us for quite a while. And to be honest, I think it's really interesting the stories you can tell with animation. And it's not just because you're essentially using the effects to create worlds that don't exist in our reality. But a lot of it is because the scripts for animation require them to be very airtight as far as when they actually get submitted and when they start actually making, if you're doing a 2D, when they start drawing or when they start rendering, the stuff like that. Unlike some live action films, which actually starts many times before a completed finished script, the animation leaves very little room for ad-libbing, which is kind of the beauty of it, because animation really allows its creators to make a whole new world from the ground up. You actually have to do that. You can't just go like, well, we're going to film on a sidewalk or something like that. No, you got to draw that sidewalk. You got to render that sidewalk. You got to do something with it. You can't just do it like you would do a live action film if you just wanted to put it in a scene or something like that, which on its own is also, very expensive. So whether it's made of clay or drawings or pixels, Every scene has to be carefully planned out, and I'm sure it's a monstrous undertaking. It's one that I'm sure that before they even get to it, they probably have all these planning stages, and they do that thing that you see in a lot of movies and stuff where they put these 3x5 cards on the wall, and then they have to juggle the order on them, every once in a while, so something like that. Okay, I think it's Pixar that has the mantra of story is king, which means that all their fancy computer generation is just made to tell a story. And the advantage of animation is you can really tell any story that you can imagine, even if it might be difficult to create in the medium they're using. I mean, I think we all remember, the film Treasure Planet, where there's a scene where they look up at a crescent moon, and then they actually go in for a close-up of the crescent moon. You actually see that moon is like full of these, it's like the moon what you thought was as big as our moon is actually quite small, but there's so much detail rendered into it. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, this is why you use animation to tell stories like this. And it's quite remarkable. But I think we're still years away before any animated film will actually win an Oscar. And part of that is something I mentioned in these episodes about how these animation is really designed for a younger audience, and with a few exceptions. And I do like the fact that there are certain films that can be shown to kids, but still deal with very mature elements. Films like Nine or Corpse Bride, they almost feel like they really shouldn't even be shown to a younger audience, really. But I suppose that day is far away, because I just feel like one day we're just going to look at film and not care what type of medium it is. And then when that happens, audiences will be just about open to anything. So it's kind of like when you look at a film and it's in black and white or color films, versus international films, and not mind the dubbing or the subtitles. We just won't care. Okay, the problem is that animation today has the problem that is plaguing most films. That is, there are more franchises and there's less experimentation. I've looked at the current lineup of animated films that are coming out this year, as well as planned, because animation takes years to do, and some of these films, they get announced and they don't come out till years later. That just happens. It used to take Pixar like 6 years to do an entire film, or 4 years or something like that. They've got it down a little bit shorter there. They can what's the word I'm looking for? They can fast track a lot of these things, but it still takes years. But most of these things are continuations of other films. I mean, I think around this time, maybe a week ago, I heard they're making a sequel to Coco. Why would you make a sequel to Coco? Coco was a great film, and you've already told the story you need to tell. I don't really see a need for a sequel to Coco, but they're making it. Ugh. And I think I mentioned in these episodes that I greatly admire films that try and take animation to the next level, and even that some of these films that come out aren't really that good. I like films that try to do new things. I mentioned Titan AE, and I think that would have deserved a nomination if they had that category back then, simply because of its animation style, which didn't exactly work 100% all the time. But hey, sometimes you got to do these things to prove you can do them, and then you do them better the next time. That just is kind of the way it works. So yeah, and I'm sure that Walt Disney got a lot of flack from people back in the day and the people in the business that said you can't do a feature-length cartoon movie. I'm sure they probably said it like that. But anyway, it's really hard to tell a story that hasn't been told before. And animation is a really good medium to use for certain things. I've seen animated films that should have been live action. I've seen live action films that could have been animated and maybe would have been better. And who knows? Animation is made so you can take that story to the next level and really go into a hyper-real sort of way of storytelling. I haven't really talked about this, but I have mentioned before when I talked about this year's Oscar winner for Best Animated Film was Flow. Now, I would have chosen The Wild Robot because I like that film a lot better, but here's the thing. Flow is a film that is not done by a major studio. It's not by Disney, it's not by Dreamworks, it's not by Studio Ghibli. It was, I think, done with a guy on Render, the same program they used to do video game animations and cutscenes. And I think it was done on pretty much laptops and servers. I think it was done in that sort of well, guerrilla style of filmmaking. And for that, I do have to admire it, and I admire Flow. I think Flow is a great film. I think everyone should see it. And am I mistaken for, do I think I'm mistaken for the fact that I liked Wild Robot better? Maybe. But I've watched The Wild Robot again, and I think it's even a better film than I remember, whereas Flow I haven't quite watched again. But I will say that's kind of the future of animation. I mean, right now we have people on YouTube who are actually making animation, and a lot of it doesn't look as good as, say, major studios go, but I like the fact that we're actually doing this. And I'd like to see a film that's an animated film so people can get their story that they need to tell out there. And I think that's really important. Okay, so next month I'm going to do something kind of different for my episode. It's going to be called Confessions of a Christian Propaganda Artist, and it's going to be about me. I've mentioned several times before on this program how I used to write sketches for a college-age Christian group, and I'm going to actually go through each of these sketches, and I'm going to have my own little DVD-style commentary on them. Some of it's going to be good as far as like a lot of the lessons that I learned from it, and some of it's going to be bad, and a lot of it is going to be a lot of cringe, where I'm going to be talking about, oh man, I would definitely not write something like this today. But hey, we all like to think we would do things differently if we had another chance to do them that way. Anyway, for now, I hope you enjoy the rest of the month, and this is Mark Rollins from The Geek Church, signing off.